Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. No matter what vertical markets you are in, they've got clients that do what you do, and they know the needs that you've got from a printing, scanning, copying perspective, and they can help your bottom line by making sure you're working as efficiently as possible. So if you're in the market looking for some printing, scanning, copying equipment, Gulf Coast Office Products can help you out. GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All right, if you've been listening to me for the last 2, 3, 4 years, you know that I've got a belief that the West Coast in college baseball is falling apart. It's dying. That's been my belief. And I am very, very happy to sit here on this Monday and tell you, like, that's probably exaggerated. I don't know if you dropped Oregon State or Arizona or UCLA into the SEC, how they would fare over 30 games. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. What has happened, though, is that those three teams are going to Omaha. And they got there in different ways, but I'm glad they're there. I've maintained this. I've said, like, I think the West Coast is dying. I look at Thatcher Hurd and Gage Jump leaving UCLA to come to LSU. I look at Braden Montgomery leaving Stanford to come to Texas A&M. I look at Derek Curiel and Stephen Milam coming from the West to come play in the SEC. And I see instances of this all over the place in college baseball. You look at Gavin Grahovic, who didn't play much this year, but he was the SEC Freshman of the Year last year. He's a California guy. He plays for Texas A&M. And I just feel like those programs that were once very proud and very good are withering away. It was a huge part of college baseball. If you were following LSU in the 90s, you know what Fullerton was. You know what Long Beach State was. Certainly what Stanford has been over the course of a long time. UCLA has got a proud recent tradition. They've got a great coach. And I looked at a UCLA team last year that wasn't any good. Stanford was bad last year. Oregon State doesn't have a conference. Arizona is having to fly across the country, playing in the Big 12 now, the conference with West Virginia. And I'm like, this is just not going to work. Everybody is coming out of the SEC, and the SEC was playing in every single national final, just 2 SEC teams playing, and they were getting half the field in Omaha, and they swept the ACC last year in Omaha. And I'm going, this is not that interesting. It's compelling for 30 games when we watch it, but I want to see something else when you get to Charles Schwab Field, and I'm getting it this year. Big shout out to those teams from the West. Like, I don't have a dog in that hunt, honestly, but like, I was, and I tweeted this if you were following along on Saturday night, like, it just was awesome to me to see Florida State, huge national brand, Jamie Arnold on the mound, top 5 pick, playing against Oregon State up in Corvallis, and everybody up there is in sweatshirts, and it's just a very different vibe than everything going on in a 5-state radius in the Southeast. I'd like some variety, and you got it in that series over the weekend. And Arnold was phenomenal for Florida State. He goes 6 2/3 of one-run baseball, striking out 9, and Florida State won that game, but Oregon State punched back and won the other 2. And, like, I'm watching these games. Oregon State's still got dudes. They don't have a conference, but they got dudes. Abe Arquette is a first-round pick. Trent Caraway is a stud. I've followed along for 3 years to watch Gavin Turley be what he's become. They were in this regional 2 years ago when he was a freshman. I was like, this dude's going to be something. And he's now the all-time leader in Oregon State home runs. They were awesome. Throwing hard, getting a bunch of hits, and they bashed Florida State around the yard in that game 3. After Jamie Arnold held them to 1 on Saturday, they come back Sunday and hang 14 up in Corvallis. That was incredible. For Arizona to take it on the chin, 18-2 on Friday. That was the first Super game. I was on the air on this set, and I'm going, One, I think North Carolina's really freaking good. Saw enough of those guys last year in the regional for 3 games to know they've got real dudes. And then they come out and they beat Arizona 18-2. But what you find out in these games is once it kind of slips away and it's 4, 5, 6 run lead, you just empty the bench, and the back end of your bullpen might give up 1,000. It brings you back to LSU in game 2 of the championship series against Florida. Well, not winning this one, and we're not going to bring Riley Cooper out there to pitch. We're not throwing Thatcher Hurd in this game. We're going to go ahead and give it to Sam Dutton and give it to Christian Little and let those guys throw. And Wyatt Langford and Jack Caglione were hitting baseballs 500 feet. I left. I was in the ballpark. Me and my dad were like, we're not watching this crap anymore. We left like the 7th inning, went and got a steak down the street. It was great. Don't even know what the final score was. I couldn't tell you right now what the final score of that game was. Because you saved your guys. And Arizona clearly saved their guys. On Friday, they got annihilated, came back 1-2 at the Bosch to beat North Carolina. That was incredible theater to watch that. UCLA, they pitched it. I mean, pitched it. UTSA went to Austin and clearly was the best team on that field for 3 days. Clearly. They outclassed Texas. Like when you say UTSA and I say UTSA out loud, that sounds like a 4 seed, right? That sounds like Southeastern, sounds like Nichols, sounds like Northwestern State. Like they're a 2 seed. They beat Texas 3 times this year. Texas was 19-1 in the league at one point. It's a pretty good team. I don't know if they're going to win the national championship, but UCLA shut them down. Now, they did it wearing softball uniforms, and that's a story for another day. But UCLA pitched it phenomenally, and they're moving on to Omaha. And that's a program that, is going to play in a dumpy little facility, but has had dudes over the years. And they're heading to Omaha, and I think that's a really, really good thing. And then, obviously, we got to talk about the All-SEC Super, that all eyes were on that. And that's Arkansas, it's Tennessee, it's Vitello and Van Horn, it's Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher and a team that plays with a ton of swagger in Tennessee, and Arkansas matched them and more. Now, what Zach Root was doing on Saturday was over the line, in my opinion. And you're talking about a guy, I'm okay with bat flips. I'm okay with pitchers strutting after a strikeout. I'm okay with showing a little emotion and quote-unquote a little showmanship. That doesn't bother me. I don't know if you need to scream at the hitter in expletives and then run down the line and scream at him even more as you come off the field. What he did was more than I need on the field. That was really it was uncalled for. But it did indicate just how high the emotions were running. And I don't know what Arkansas is going to look like on Saturday. I don't know what they're going to look like on Monday in their second game, win or lose. I don't know if they're going to win the national championship or go 2-Q. But if they can bottle what they did over those 2 days against Tennessee, they're going to be a real problem for LSU on Saturday and then moving forward. I'm not anywhere close to picking that game on Saturday. We'll handle that from Omaha, from the Ameristar on Friday. I'll deal with that when the time comes. But I have consistently ranked Arkansas 1, 2, 3 in the SEC power rankings. Now, LSU's been up there as well, but I've also been on record saying that I think their best is better than everybody else's. And their best was on display this weekend. They lit Liam Doyle up. And then Tennessee went to the pen, and they lit them up. The Vols are an arm farm up there. They got a lot of guys that have gotten a lot of outs and have big-time pro prospects, and Arkansas didn't give a rip. They were hitting home runs off the glass door in right field. Hog Pen going nuts. Gage Wood throwing 97. They were something. I picked Tennessee to win that Super in 3 games. They got outclassed. Hitting grand slams the opposite field. I mean, that was some real stuff by Arkansas. And I caught myself watching that while LSU was in a delay going, God, this feels like it might be Arkansas's time. But we all know that weekend to weekend, even game to game, some things don't translate. And I've watched some of the best teams in college baseball go up there and just really struggle. Like I'll bring two to an example. LSU in 2013 was as good as anybody in the country. Anybody in the country. There were 3 teams that year that kind of separated. It was Vanderbilt, LSU, and North Carolina. Vanderbilt got beat in their home regional, so they didn't make it to Omaha. And then LSU went 2-0. They just went up there. It was a different bat, but they didn't hit. Ibarra hit those 2 balls to the track. He loses a 2-1 game to UCLA. And then you come back the next day and North Carolina beats you and you go home. Oregon State was just a freight train in 2017. And for 2 days, they just didn't hit. Alex Lang, Zach Hess, Caleb Gilbert, night, back to Corvallis. Like, it happens to some teams, and it can happen to Arkansas. Certainly has. Dave Van Horn and Mike Martin can write a book about going up to Omaha with a damn good baseball team and coming back home with nothing. So what you did last weekend doesn't mean what's going to happen moving forward, but I can't imagine anybody feels much better about their team than what Arkansas feels right now as they head up there. So it's an interesting field to me. I'm excited to talk about it as the week moves forward. We'll see if you get a lot of intrigue, like Murray State showing up. By the way, like, if y'all seen what Murray State's done in the NCAA tournament offensively, like, they got Duke this afternoon in a winner move on, but like their NCAA tournament run production is remarkable. They opened with Ole Miss and scored 9. Then they played Georgia Tech and scored 13. They lost a game to Ole Miss where they scored 8. Then they played Ole Miss again and scored 12. They lost to Duke with 4 in the opener of the Super on Saturday, and then came back yesterday and hung 19. So you've got a 19, a 12, an 8, a 13, and a 9 for Murray State. And that's against Ole Miss and Duke, who are power programs. Like, they're an SEC and an ACC school. I'm not telling you their staff's as good as Vanderbilt's looked 3 weeks ago, but still, that's a lot of runs that Murray State's scoring. So maybe they jump in the field. You've got those 3 teams from the West Coast. There's only 2 SEC teams that are in. You look at Coastal, who's playing as well as anybody. They just went to Auburn and just punked Auburn for 2 days. Got an extra inning win in the wee hours of the morning on Friday into Saturday, and then slammed the door on Auburn the next day with incredible pitching performance from the Sun Belt Pitcher of the Year. So it's a diverse field. It's an interesting field to me. I'm excited about this. I think the field in 2023 was just loaded. There were pros everywhere with Caglione and Lauder and Skeens and Cruz and Wyatt Langford. And like, all those guys are already up in the big leagues. They were in 2024. So it was loaded from that perspective with dudes. This is just a diverse field that's a little bit more interesting. You could call it weaker. I wouldn't disagree with you. But I think it's healthy for the sport to have a different look than just, hey, here's the SEC tournament, move from Hoover up to Omaha. That's not what you have this year, and that part of it excites me. I think that's really cool. So I'm looking very much forward to diving into the bracket. I'll have a lot of coverage over on LouisianaSports.net this week, and I'll be heading up to Omaha come Thursday. Shout out to the folks at GoFlow IV Spa for making that happen, and I'll be at the Ameristar as long as LSU's there, and we'll be doing shows Friday, Saturday, Monday, assuming LSU doesn't play at 1. We'll be at the Ameristar doing my show whenever we have an opportunity to do that, and LSU doesn't have the 1 o'clock start. So if you're looking for something to do while you're up at Omaha, Ameristar is a pretty good spot to go. Incredible sports book, great casino floor, dining options, great spot. And there are some room availability this weekend. It's a little bit crowded, but you can find some space there. So go check that out online. The Ameristar in Council Bluffs, Iowa. All right, we'll take a time out. We'll come back with some more. We'll talk some football next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Whether you're in the market for a sedan, an SUV, it doesn't matter. They've got a vehicle that can fit your needs. And I can promise you, whatever vehicle you pick is going to be one of the safest cars on the road. That's a promise I know I can make to you, because every single model in the line, all of them, were IHA top safety picks. Some top safety picks plus. So no matter which one you get behind the wheel of, you'll know it's among the safest cars on the road. That's obviously very, very important. Every single new purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That's a pretty good perk to grab. And 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance. That means they'll come get your vehicle, they'll handle the maintenance, bring it right back to you. You never miss a beat. It's all part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. Go by and see them. Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All right, Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. I'm going to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. Ross Jackson got a piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now talking about the Saints potentially getting in the mix for Jaire Alexander. If you're going, wait a second, Jaire Alexander played for the Packers, right? Report from Ian Rappaport earlier today that the Packers set to release Jaire Alexander today. So does that make sense for the Saints? It's a weird spot. The Saints have some room to spend money at this point in the year. That never happens. The Saints never have salary cap space. They do, thanks to the retirement of Derek Carr. And they do kind of have a need at corner. You've got Alontae Taylor, fourth-year player. You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry moving into his second year, and you brought Isaac Yiadom back. But that's kind of where your cornerback room stops as far as proven assets. And so if you can get Jaire Alexander on a short-term deal with the money that you've got laying around, yeah, I'm all for it. Now, there is risk involved in taking Jaire Alexander. He hasn't played enough football in the last 3 years. You're talking about a guy who has missed significant time over the course of the last 3 seasons. And as you get older, that becomes a bigger problem. He's knocking on the door of 30, and he's playing about 7 games a year over the last 2 years. So this is not like the missing piece, but I'm all for bringing in talented veterans to help shepherd the younger players on this Saints roster with the contingent that you're not tying up significant money down the line. I don't know what the market is for Jaire Alexander. Clearly, Green Bay's decided they've had enough. So stands to reason it's not going to be just a feeding frenzy here. But if you got $30 million laying around and you can sign Jaire Alexander on a 1-year deal with some performance-based incentives to make sure he's on the field, and he can come in and help Alontae Taylor and certainly help Kool-Aid McKinstry and help some of the young defensive backs. You add him to a veteran room that includes Tyrann Mathieu, that includes Justin Reed. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with a 3-year deal for a 30-year-old cornerback who has played 7 games a year the last 2 years. I am okay on a 1-year deal. There are no such thing as bad 1-year deals when you're talking about the Saints right now, because you're not tying up funds for the next great Saints team. That's a phraseology I use all the time, the next great Saints team. And the odds are Jaire Alexander's not going to be on the next great Saints team, but I do see value in adding veterans. And the Saints kicked the tires a little bit earlier in free agency on Asante Samuel. And I think the same thing stands true for here. You don't have to give anything up to get Alexander. This is not a deal where you're trading away draft picks or any assets of any kind. You just got some extra money to spend. So I'm all for spending it. You're talking about a guy who is a 2-time Pro Bowler, who's a boundary corner, who would make your team a little bit better. And so signing a 28-year-old with $8 million that you're not spending anywhere else, if that's what the market says, like, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I do think the Saints need to address the position. I think you're too thin at this point with that group that I just went through. So this, to me, makes a lot of sense. I think the craziest thing as I was kind of prepping this segment and thinking about the way to approach it and whether or not I think it makes sense is I just kept looking at myself going, I can't believe we're talking about the fact that the Saints have a piggy bank with spare change in it. That never happens this time of year. Thanks, Derek Carr. That's great. We appreciate it. And you can talk about adding guys that can, one, make your team better, maybe make your organization a little bit better. And I think a guy that comes from such an incredible organization in Green Bay that's played at a very high level is worth a shot. Again, no long-term deals, no 4-year contract, but 1 year, come in, play some ball, teach the young corners that you're now counting on to usher in this new era post-Lattimore, post-Paulson Adebo, usher that era in. Yeah, I'm all for that. If Asante Samuel works out, great. If Jaire Alexander works out, great. Just make the money work out. Don't do anything foolish. And to be clear, like, the Saints really haven't. I didn't love the Juwan Johnson signing, and I was tepid on Justin Reed. But none of it's egregious. And so I don't expect the Saints to do anything egregious here. I think that it just makes sense to see if you can bring them to the table. Your issue is you're not a very attractive destination. I don't know how long that Jaire Alexander has left to play. Corners that are 28 are generally on about their last leg. Does he want to play for a team that's got a better chance to compete for a championship? Probably. But if you outspend that team by $1 million, who's to say that he won't end up in your lap? And you've got that now to play with. Financial freedom's a heck of a thing. Check that out, Mick. It's a good deal. So we'll see if that's the case. Justin Reed chose to play for the Saints over the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a home type deal, and Jaire Alexander doesn't necessarily have that going. But hey, I think that it makes a lot of sense that potentially you could make that happen over the next couple of weeks should the release of Jaire Alexander come official from Green Bay. Right now, just a report. I'm assuming that that's going to come to fruition. Ian Rappaport, not in the business of making things up, but I think it can make some sense for the Saints to bring him in and see what he can do. And hey, if he plays really well and you feel like there's 2 more years in him and you want to make that addition right there and then lock him up for 2 more years after he plays a healthy season and still shows he can really do it, I'm not opposed to that in any way. I think that could be a solid move for the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see if the Saints decide to do that. Got a little money to spend. There are some veterans out there that you can do it. I think corner is a great spot for the Saints to have. I think they're a little bit thin at that spot, if talented, but a little bit thin there at corner. So if you're looking for Saints coverage, you can find it at LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson's got you covered. You can certainly find it over at Hunt on Saints on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Hunt on Saints, all year long. LSU football loses somebody off their staff earlier today. Talk a little bit about that. Plus, LSU got a commitment in the transfer portal for baseball. Give you my thoughts on that as well. Moving right along here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
While LSU was bidding to make the 2025 College World Series, the 2026 team got a little boost in the form of a transfer from Kansas State coming home. Seth Dardar from Kansas State, initially from Mandeville, went to Columbia for 3 years. One of those years he sat out the season, but transferred to Kansas State. Had a really good year for the Wildcats this past season. Hit .326 with 13 home runs. One of those home runs came off of Cade Anderson in Frisco in that tournament when LSU and K-State got together. Had 18 doubles, got on base 43% of the time, played some first base, played some second base, left-handed bat. Jay Johnson loves left-handed hitting infielders. Tanner Reeves is one of those. Stephen Milam can be one of those. And Dardar is a left-handed bat. I think right now you're looking at a guy that probably profiles at first base. Jared Jones is going to move on. You've lost Ryan Costello. He transferred out, who was kind of waiting in the wings there as a potential power-hitting first baseman. But Dardar could be a middle-of-the-order power bat for LSU in 2026, and was certainly that for Kansas State. Could play some second base. I haven't seen enough of him to know if that's a reasonable thing or not, and we'll see what happens. Daniel Dickinson is going to move on. So we'll see what LSU does in the transfer portal moving forward and what this high school class looks like once the draft settles down. But in any event, this is a guy that is going to come in and very much looks like a guy who's going to be in the middle of the order and should hit for some power. LSU has shown an ability to take transfer bats and elevate them. You look at the work that Chris Stanfield has done. He's a significantly better hitter than he was at Auburn last year. Braswell hasn't had a good year this year. He was significantly better last year than he was at South Carolina for sure. So maybe Dardar comes in and a 326 guy with 13 home runs in the Big 12 plays up a little bit in his final year. Maybe he's a 330 hitter with 15, 18 home runs at LSU next year, playing a little bit warmer weather and with his LSU staff teaching him on the offensive side of things. So Jay Johnson said on this show last week that not as busy in the transfer portal this year as he has been in years previous. They're going to be very selective. They like the base of this roster right now moving into next year, and then certainly like the signing class that's coming in. So not going to be extremely aggressive as far as numbers go in the transfer portal, but you got to get the right guys, and he feels like Seth Dardar is one of those guys. So Mandeville native going to come down to LSU from Manhattan, Kansas, and be a left-handed bat in the LSU infield next season. So let's talk a little bit of LSU football now. Some news breaking earlier today. Pete Nakos of On3 reported it initially. LSU is losing a member of its recruiting staff in Jordan Arcement. He's leaving to go join Athletes First, which is a management company that works with players, coaches, broadcasters nationwide to deal with. It's basically an agency. So he's going to jump into the NIL world and help players on that front. It's been an interesting way up for Jordan Arcement, who's a Thibodeau native, played football at Nichols, ended up heading over to work at West Virginia. And not West Virginia, at Virginia. He worked his way up to the director of recruiting communications, came to LSU, and really helped with recruiting, with NIL deals, with relationships with players and getting guys in. He wasn't an on-the-field coach, but he rose up over the course of 3 years and was eventually the director of recruiting communications and external relationships. I can't claim to know exactly what Jordan Arcement did day to day. I can't exactly explain that. I do know that he was front and center in a lot of recruiting situations, especially when it came to building relationships with players. And I don't know this, I think dealing with NIL opportunities for LSU student athletes. That would make a lot of sense if that's exactly what he was doing, because it sounds like you go to be a representative. That's literally all you're doing, is making sure that your clients are compensated fairly and properly and see all the opportunities that they can get. So it's not a guy that was coaching defensive backs on how to backpedal, not a guy who was teaching pass protection to the running backs, a guy that was purely in the department of building the roster, maintaining relationships, generating name, image, and likeness deals, and that's an important thing in this day and age. And I know that the players really like Jordan Arcement. I think that he's going to come on with Matt a little bit later today to kind of explain what this move is for him. I'm not ready to sit here and tell you that this is a devastating blow that the football program can't recover from, but it is a guy that had a big role in LSU's recruiting machine, and they'll have to figure that out. It's kind of a right now an Austin Thomas, Brian Kelly operation at the top level, but Arcement was right there in that intermediary level where he's dealing a lot with the players. Kelly and Austin Thomas very famously have gone to see NFL teams, talked about how to manage a salary cap and how to assign values to each position and what amount of your budget you can spend here, what amount of your budget you can spend here, what you prioritize, what you do not, when to say yes, more importantly probably, when to say no. That's the top of this thing. But you also, with all that comes with the NIL, with all that comes with the money and all that comes with paying players and making sure everybody's happy, you've got to have relationships with the guys. And that's where Jordan Arcement really made a name for himself and really rose up the ranks very quickly here in Baton Rouge, handling that. No idea who may take those reins at this point, but Jordan Arcement kind of moving into the private sector there, and it's going to work with Athletes First on the management side of things. We'll see just how badly that affects LSU. My sense, and again, this is my opinion, this is certainly not a fact, in my opinion on the matter, is that this is a bit of a ding to LSU as far as recruiting goes, but something that Brian Kelly can smooth over and put somebody else in that role and continue to move forward. So that's just my thought on the situation with LSU. Jordan Arcement moving on from LSU's LSU's football program into the agent world to deal with athletes first. Our Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. You can work with the big box store if you want to work with the big box store. They have all the resources in the world, may be able to give you incredible pricing, but give them a phone call, you get a recorded line in Atlanta or San Francisco, can't get anybody on the phone, who's coming out to repair my issues. That's not exactly what you're looking for. You can work with a mom and pop shop, and they'll have great customer service. They'll pick up the phone, they'll know your name, they'll know your dog's name. But do they have the resources to properly do the job? The beautiful thing about Gulf Coast Office Products is they split that right down the middle. They've got all the resources that you need. They've got $1 million worth of inventory right here in Baton Rouge. They're statewide. They've got an incredible staff, especially with technicians that can come out. If you have any issues, they can handle the fix on your machine, maybe get you a new machine if you're up and running. Customer service is going to be phenomenal as well. You're going to have a great relationship with your rep like Trey. That's the beauty of working with Gulf Coast Office Products. For all your printing, scanning, copying needs, do what we do here at Guarantee Media. Work with Gulf Coast Office Products for all of your needs. Check them out online, GCOPnet.com. GCOPnet.com is where you can find them. We're off and running here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week's off to a good start. We got one segment left to go. Take a time out, come back and close things down. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Our Rad Dad contest is back and bigger than ever. Roaming Shot Outdoors and Citizens Bank and Trust bring you Dad's favorite gifts ever. A green egg thanks to Goodwood Hardware, a steak pack from Chris Specialty Foods, Manly soap from Hawk Soap, and a hunting class for 2 from Roaming Shot Outdoors. It's too late to upload your pictures. That submission ended yesterday, but you can get on our website, 1045ESPN.com, to vote for your Rad Dad from today through Thursday the 12th. Happy Father's Day to all those rad dads out there.
Appreciate that, Beck. Thank you.
I wasn't calling you a rad dad.
Feeling pretty rad.
No.
I just saw this on Twitter. It made me laugh. There's a 7'3" center from Italy who's making an official visit. Where do you think he's visiting?
Gonzaga.
Nope. One more guess.
Florida.
Purdue.
Oh. I was not going to guess that.
Somebody captioned it with the Jesse Pinkman. He can't keep getting away with this. Purdue always is just a huge, massive guy in the middle of their team. Not always as good as Zach Edey, but seems like they're going to go shopping for that as well. I want to give a major tip of the cap to the LSU baseball fan base for the weekend. Incredible stuff. It was 1,000 degrees on Saturday. I offered my apology on Friday for saying it was a great game time. I was purely thinking about my arrival at home for a 1 o'clock game, which I did very much enjoy, but I wasn't thinking about the folks that were sitting out in the outfield when it was 100,000 degrees on Saturday at 1 o'clock. But the place was full, and it was loud, and it was awesome, and you deserve a huge hat tip for that. And then the 963rd rain delay of the season that once again put everyone in the box until after midnight last night, and it was full. It was full for the last out, and that's not going to be the case everywhere. And I think sometimes we take a lot of things from baseball for granted. I try not to, but it just is what it is. This is LSU's 20th trip to Omaha in 40 years. Tigers have won 7 national championships. You look at incredible programs like Arkansas that's never won one. Like Florida's got 2. Vanderbilt's got 2. And you're talking about a program that has just been incredible for that long. And so we just get sometimes maybe desensitized to success or something that's exceptional. And for that place to have, 11,000 people in it at 11:40 on a Sunday night was really cool. And the environment was great. The energy was loud. There were a number of West Virginia reporters that made the trip for the Super Regional, whether it was newspaper, local television. And I didn't speak with any of them. I was doing radio, and so was separated yesterday. And my seat was up on the top level. I was chatting with Cobble most of the game. But I overheard some of their discussions, and they were kind of blown away with the size of the facility, with the energy of the crowd and the noise and all that kind of goes into that. And I talked about this on Friday, but I'll reiterate it. Like, I sit in that place when it's empty in the fall a lot. And when I'm doing that, you can visualize what it looks like when it's at its best. And this weekend was phenomenal. I mean, the circumstances weren't perfect. It was 100 degrees on Saturday, and it was midnight on Sunday. It didn't matter. LSU fans just showed up and were just awesome from start to finish, and that's really, really cool. So we'll see what kind of crowd makes its way up to Omaha for this weekend. I kind of doubt it's going to be quite as big a takeover as it was in 2023. That was the longest layoff LSU had in 30 years. You had crews and schemes that were, felt generational. I hate that term, but I'll use air quotes with it. And it seemed like everybody went to that one. I don't know what this one will look like. I know that every time that LSU goes, there's a subset of fans that don't go that time that say, hey, next time I'm doing it. And there are probably going to be a sizable amount of those that show up in Omaha, but we'll see just how big that takeover is. But it was a great weekend in Baton Rouge for LSU to punch their 20th ticket to Omaha, and now got a chance to go up there and see what you can do with 8 teams left to compete for a national championship. Got one more order of business here. We'll take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Shout out to Flight by Yingling. It's the next generation of light beer. Just 2.6 carbs, 95 calories, brewed by the oldest brewery in America. Yingling's been doing this for 6 generations. That's a lot of beer knowledge. And Flight by Yingling, phenomenal light summer beer, whether you're at the tailgate, whether you're at the lake, whether you're at the pool, whether you're on the golf course. Grab a Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer.
Alrighty, first one here. We talked about it last week a little bit. The Paul Skeens performance with the Pirates and their inability to win during his starts. Yesterday, it continued as the Pirates won. However, it was tied 1-1 after Skeens pitched 7 2/3, giving up 1 unearned run on 2 hits with 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. Of course, like I said, he was pulled with the game tied 1-1. So he got a no decision. So his record still stands at 4-6 with a 1.88 ERA, which is only second to Kodai Senga, who's having an unbelievable season for the Mets. But Skeens will win more than 10 games. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Pitching like that, you can't help but win a couple. I think he'll win 10. I saw on Instagram last night after the game, Skeens and Livy were out on the boat somewhere. So it didn't seem like he was taking the no decision too hard. Seems like he was enjoying the evening out on the water. And he should probably do that because there's not going to be a lot of wins in the Pittsburgh Pirates. But that 4-6 with a 1 point something is just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. It's that having a ERA under 2 and having started as many games he has with 4 wins. Yeah, that's just the Pirates for you. All right, next one here. Jack Caglione had a little bit of a rough start to his MLB career with the Royals, but he went 4 for 4 on Sunday. Royals got the win 7-5. Caglione will bat over 300 this year in the MLB. Take it or leave it.
I will leave that in a hurry. He's going to strike out a truckload, and that's okay. They're paying him to hit the ball over the fence, and he's going to do that some as well. He was crushing AAA. He was actually stationed in Omaha at AAA. That's where the Royals AAA affiliate is. But yeah, he's going to hit a ton, but he's going to strike out a ton as well. He will not sniff 300.
All right, last one here. The Stanley Cup Finals have been absolutely electric so far in their first 2 games. Series tied 1-1. The first game went to overtime. Oilers won that one 4-3. The second game went to double overtime. The Panthers won that one 5-4. They play tonight at 7 o'clock. Hunt, you will watch this game. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. That's going to be a no. I did just get Otterlocks in, though, from Jimmy, and he's got Edmonton plus 124. So I'm guessing that's the road team if they're an underdog?
Yes, they are.
Okay, yeah, so he's going to take the road dog there for an auto locks. There's a little teaser of what is to come.
You can get. I mean, these games have been incredible. They're going to both games going to overtime. It's a high.
What time does it start?
It starts at 7.
So it's how long are hockey games? Like 2.5 hours.
2.5.
I'm not going to be awake at 9:30.
Okay,
no chance.
You can watch the first few periods.
The issue with that is that Myers is awake, and then he's not going to want to watch that. He's going to scream at me if we don't watch
doesn't he have his little tablet anyway? So you're usually watching something else.
I'll watch on my tablet. So I'm not going to watch the hockey. I hope it's a great game, and if I'm awake, unfortunately, and somebody tweets out that it's overtime, I might flip over to it, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah, all right, that's it for Take It or Leave It.
And I'm going to watch Murray State and Duke as well. You got a winner in that one from Raleigh?
Yeah, how about Matt McMahon's former team? I'll take the Racers.
The Racers hit. They just hit and hit and hit. I don't know if they pitch it great, but they hit a lot. And Duke hits a lot of home runs as well. That ballpark is kind of rinky-dink. The entirety of, from home plate to first base is just a berm. They don't have any seats over there. There's just seats on the left side of home plate. Not necessarily the great. It's funny if Murray State played at Swayze for the regional, which is incredible college environment. Then you go to Duke, which is not necessarily quite the same, but they're hitting all the same. So I think I like the Racers to win that one. That'll be kind of the cherry on top to a unique Omaha field that's got 3 teams from the West Coast. You'll have your one Cinderella there. You got your big brands in LSU and Arkansas on one side. I think that's a nice touch to the field of 8.
So if Murray State wins, and then they will play UCLA, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then if LSU wins, they will play the winner of UCLA and Murray State.
They're going to play either UCLA or Murray State or Duke in the second game, no matter what, win or lose. Just a matter.
Yes.
Is it at 1:00 on Monday or is it at 6:00?
So we'll have We'll have the Matt McMahon Bowl potentially.
Potentially could. You could have LSU and Murray State, the Matt McMahon Bowl there for maybe a spot in the driver's seat or to keep your season alive.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll see. I really need LSU to win on Saturday so that I don't have to. I mean, my show is going to be worthless on Monday if LSU loses that game. It's a 1:00.
How many times has a team lost their first game in Omaha, gone on to win? I want to know what this
doesn't happen very often.
Probably not very often.
Not very often. I do know for sure that A&M and Tennessee both won their first game last year because every single game in Omaha, all of them, went the opposite of the way I would have liked them to go. There was not a single game that the team I would prefer won. It was brutal. So, yeah, they won. LSU got to the championship game out of the losers bracket in 17 and 2023, but they won their first game both of those years. In 17, they beat Florida State, and in 23, they beat Tennessee. So that's the preferred way to get it done is to win that first game, but we'll see. We're talking about a lot of College World Series over the next couple of days. Appreciate Gulf Coast Office Products for bringing you our Monday shows. Missed any of today's show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. A lot of baseball in that first hour, a little football in the second hour. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review. We are back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll talk to Glenn and Sharif. A lot of baseball on that show. Have a great Monday. See you tomorrow on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.